Hi, I'm Timothy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about the eBay authentication guarantee. If you're new to my channel, I'm a part-time reseller. I like to sell shoes and hats and all assortment of other things. But today I want to talk about the eBay authentication process. Some of it may be new to you, and you may want to know what's it all about and what can I expect. And so today I just want to kind of quickly go over just a few things so that you better understand the eBay authentication. So eBay authentication was recently rolled out, and it's just a way to authenticate items. So for example, you've got your Jordans that you want to buy, and you want to make sure that you are getting a real pair of Jordans. There's a lot of fakes out there. How can you guarantee that? Well, eBay has rolled out a way that they will actually authenticate items, verify it before it gets shipped out to you if you're the buyer, or shipped out to the buyer if you're the seller. And this is not just for shoes. It's not for new shoes, but it can be for used items as well. So it covers shoes, of course, sneakers, that type of thing, but also handbags, watches, jewelry, and even like trading cards as well. So a variety of categories in there. And in those categories, there are certain brands and certain models or certain styles that are considered needing to be authenticated. And so eBay has put this thing in place where they will authenticate these items before they get sent on to the destination. Now, you may be asking, how do you know if your items are authenticated? How do you know how that happens? Do you have to do a checkbox when you list it? Well, eBay actually goes ahead and actually identifies these things and actually puts a check mark in there. So you don't have to really do anything different when you list, but once you list it, in the search results, also in the item itself, there'll be a little like blue check mark that says authentication guarantee, and that is their way to authenticate. Now, you may be saying, okay, so what is the process? What does it look like from a seller standpoint? If you've never sold a pair of shoes that required authentication, what does that look like? So let me tell you a little bit how that works. So when you list your item, you will list it just like you normally do. You even put in your shipping and all that. But once it gets authenticated, your item when it gets marked as being authenticated, your item will actually have that blue check marks, and it will actually change the shipping from your standard shipping that you may charge to a flat fee of $14.95. Essentially, that goes to eBay, and eBay actually provides the label. And that is basically the main difference that you will see in your listing. Now, when someone actually makes a purchase of a pair of shoes that are needing to be authenticated, what happens is they'll go in and they'll make that purchase. You'll get notified of that purchase. Payment is still being processed. The buyer will pay the $14.95, and eBay will give you a free label that you can actually send the shoes to. One thing to keep in mind is that once that sale has been made for authentication, you can no longer communicate through eBay with that buyer. If you go to message the buyer, you cannot send any messages to the buyer. So make sure you get all your messages out before that purchase is made if possible. Now, once you get it, you need to ship your shoes to the authenticator using the label that is provided. The label that's provided is FedEx. So if you're used to using your priority mail shoe boxes like this, or normal shipping like this, you cannot use these. You have to ship it in just a plain box that doesn't use, of course, a USPS mail since it's being sent FedEx. Now you can send it like you normally send it. Go find your old Amazon boxes that you've used. Go find some brown boxes. Maybe you are part of the eBay reseller. You got a store and you get some eBay products and you get some free shoe boxes and stuff like that. Of course, you can use that. But find you some boxes that you will put your shoes in, and then you put your FedEx label on them. Now, the place that you will send them, there's basically 4 places. If you're local to the United States, I've sent them to 2 locations. One is Queens, New York, and the other is Las Vegas, Nevada. That is where it is within the United States. There's also, I believe, Canada, I think it's Toronto, Canada, and then there's also a place in the UK that will authenticate it. These are places that are eBay's warehouses that they have authenticators that will actually receive the product and they'll authenticate it. Now, their authentication process is they'll receive the product, they'll make sure the product matches what you've added in your listing. Once they've verified this in your listing, they'll actually go through, look at the quality of the shoe, logos, even the packaging. If you have a box, if it's a new box, they'll look at the box. They'll look at all those items to make sure that these are authentic products. Once they have authenticated, they will take the shoe. I believe it's the left shoe. This is my right shoe, but the left shoe, and they will put like a little tag on here that says eBay Authentication. I think it's like a tag that you can actually scan with your cell phone. I think if you have newer cell phones like an iPhone 7 or Android 2015 or later, you can actually scan these little tags, and it'll tell you everything about the authentication process and what it's gone through. That will then once they've authenticated and they've put that tag on there, they will actually put it in a new box. So even if you send it in a Amazon Prime box, they'll actually put it in another box, something like this. So they'll put it in another box like this, and they'll repackage it and put another FedEx label on that, and they will send that on to the buyer. Once the buyer receives it, they'll receive it like normal, they'll have the authentication. Now, if you have any return policies or anything you'd like to do for returns, they can actually still return items as long as they're within that window of the return policy that you have. That process is actually, once they return it, then they actually send it back to the authenticator. The authenticator confirms that the items haven't been switched, it's still authenticated, and then will continue to send it back to you, the seller. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you're sending all these authentic items, but in the rare chance that you have an item that does not pass authentication, what happens? Well, those items, if an item does not pass authentication, they will package the shoes up. You'll get a notification saying, hey, your items did not pass authentication, and they return the shoes back to you. They'll actually put them back in a new box, not the same box. They'll package them up and send them back to you. The buyer gets a full refund of their purchase price, and that's it. So that's basically the process of how you can expect it. You do get notifications when it's received by the authentication, and once it's been authenticated, once it gets shipped out to the buyer, you receive a notification. So you kind of stay along the process, but of course it adds a couple days to the shipping process, but that's the cost of authentication, and so it's kind of what you can do with it. Now, you may be asking, can you avoid authentication? Can you decline? Can the buyer decline authentication? No, they can't. Once it's set to be authenticated, then those items get there. I think there may be some loopholes where you could probably send it directly to the buyer, but if they've been marked as authenticated, then you want to continue with the authentication process. But yeah, once those things are authenticated, you send them to the buyer receives it, everything's good, you get your money and for what you sold it for, and the buyer gets their shoes and they're authenticated. So it kind of helps with the process and gives people a little more guarantee that the item that they are purchasing is real, and they can feel more confident. You can be able to sell items for a little higher prices because you have that guarantee added on there. Now, one thing I will say that the authentication process from eBay is currently set to free. It's a free service that they provide to help with the marketing and selling of these items. I'm sure later on they will probably have some type of fee for this, but right now it is free. So if you're new to it, you're trying to sell shoes and you're like, I really don't know what this thing is, what to expect. Hey, it's all good. Just know that it adds a little bit of time to the process, but it guarantees that you get your guaranteed product to the buyer, and you get the most money that you can for it. It gives that buyer the peace of mind. So next time that you have a pair of shoes that show up as being authentication, like authentic authentication guarantee, you know a little bit about the process of how it goes to eBay. They authenticate it. They send it on to the buyer, and all is good. So I haven't had any problems. Like I said, I've had some that have been approved and got sent on to the buyer, and I've received actually a pair that did not pass authentication, and it came back to me. And so I received that as being an item that did not pass. They did not say specifically why it did not pass. They just said that they could not guarantee it. And so with that, could not guarantee, they were not able to authenticate it and pass it on. So, but yeah, so I was okay with that, and just a kind of learning process of both sides of the approval and the decline of being authentic. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this was helpful as you are selling more items on eBay, especially those authentication guarantee items. If you like this content, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. I share this type of content all the time, and I'd love to have you come back and watch it. It helps me as a channel, but also helps others see my content and helps them in their reselling journey as well. Well, that's all I have for you today. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. We'll see you.